Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show for April 3rd, 2019. The grind continues? Or are we over the hump? We're kind of over the hump here. Are there any new games coming out?
No, we got all of them.
We did it. All the games are out. All right.
We're done for the year.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys in January, I guess.
All right.
Bye. No, there's plenty more going on in PC gaming. As always, it's a nonstop roller coaster ride. And joining me on this roller coaster ride today is Chris Livingston, our staff writer. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Hello. And Wes Fenlon, our features editor. What's up?
Happy to be buckled in next to you, the screaming child on the roller coaster, James.
Okay. All right. The screaming child.
That come on, you know that would be you, right? You'd be the
I'm the screaming child of PC
because you're having fun, not because you're scared. Okay. Just because you're having such a good time.
I think I'm having the kind of fun that you can't distinguish from fear. That's kind of my brand. So, but we've got a lot to talk about today. And chat, let me know if the audio is good on my end. I know we had some a bit of a problem last week early on, so let me know ASAP. We should be good, but just checking. Good show today. What are we talking about? Oh my gosh. Wes, you played a couple video games.
Maybe as many as 4 video games in the past 7 days.
That's
unusual for me.
That's a record.
Usually it's like maybe one.
Is one of them, does it involve ASCII art or command prompts?
No,
okay.
Not in the actual game, only in Lineage, in Legacy.
Gotcha. But the one you've brought to us is Risk of Rain 2, and I played some of that as well. So we'll be talking about its like massive reception and sort of what we think about it so far. It's a pretty surprising transition from 2D roguelike to 3D roguelike, and I think they pulled it off pretty well, and we'll talk about exactly why.
Yeah.
Chris and Wes, but particularly Chris, you've been surviving in a fantasy world, Outward, and you're going to be talking to us about your time with that. And I believe you're reviewing it. You've got a review happening the next day or two, or hopefully something like that.
Yeah, soon. I was kind of hoping it would be up today, but it didn't happen. But possibly later today, if not tomorrow.
It's a complicated game.
Complicated.
Yeah, it's not an easy one to kind of summarize.
There's a lot of thoughts and a lot of things to kind of consider and a lot of ups and downs, but
right
I'll get there.
Cool. And Wes, you've played a lot of this with Chris, so we'll have some good perspective on that game. It's a fascinating looking thing for sure. But the big news of the week that we are very obviously going to address is all this Borderlands 3 news. So last week we just touched on it. We knew it was happening, but now we've kind of soaked in God, that beautiful reveal at PAX East, Randy Pitchford's magic show.
It was magical.
The choppy
that's
video.
Really the only word for it.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. That's for sure. But we'll talk about even more recently. I think this morning we learned the release date. We learned it's going to be an Epic exclusive for 6 months. And
what?
Yeah, we got a bit of a brief look at the Vault Hunters in action. So we'll kind of talk about how we're feeling about it all so far. But before we do any of that, let's talk about our highlights of the week. And our highlights of the week are anything in PC gaming that stood out to us over the last week, whether it's something we played or something we read about or something in the news, anything that really we think is worth sharing, good or bad. So why don't we start with Wes Fenlon.
Okay, so we're gonna do a whole bit on Risk of Rain in a second here, yeah. But I want to talk about one match I was playing in particular last night. So if you don't know the game, it's a roguelike. It's really I kind of want to say, like, I don't want to say pointless, but it's just a game that you're playing for the sake of accruing a shitload of items that make you super powerful and lasting as long as you can against crazy escalation of enemies in terms of both damage and quantity. Yeah. So by the time the difficulty just keeps ticking up as you play. So by the time you get like 40, 50 minutes in at the normal difficulty level, It's just spawning bosses all over the place. There'll just be dozens and dozens of enemies swarming at you, and you'll have like 15 different abilities proccing every 2 seconds and going off like crazy. So I was playing co-op last night with some friends, and we got into a level. We're like at the max difficulty at this point. We're like 60 minutes in, and it spawns, I think, 6 boss enemies on us. So these like this beetle queen that can itself spawn a bunch of little little minions who come swarming at you and like spit out these like bee enemies that float around in the air. So we're having all of these different bosses spitting out extra enemies to come after us. All my friends get killed, and I'm just like running circles around the map. And I had all these items that made me super fast, so I could, as long as I didn't stand still, I was pretty safe.
Right.
And I kept running circles around the map, and I needed to do like, I don't remember the number, but I think something like 300,000 damage to these enemies to kill the bosses. And it just kept spawning. They kept spawning more and more minions to the point where my frame rate for the game just dropped to about 2 FPS. And for a good while there, it was running at about 20, which was totally fine. I could handle that. It was just like playing Perfect Dark or something back in the day. But once it got down to 2 FPS, it was pretty uncomfortable and was giving me a little bit of motion sickness. But I was able to use this special like piece of equipment that I got that creates like a mini black hole, and just throw it into the mob of like so many enemies that all you could see was just health bars just layered on top of one another, and just like throw one of those black holes in, and then just like unleash all my shit on that and kill probably like 30 or 40 enemies stacked up at a time. And after about 20 minutes of my friends just watching me methodically circle around these bosses, I was finally able to kill them and take us to the next level. At which point we just promptly quit because there was like nothing else to do at that point. But I wanted to prove that I could do it, and I did it.
Very proud of you, Wes.
Yeah, I was very proud of myself, James.
You should be. You should be.
But that game's super fun.
Yes, and we'll talk a lot more about why. We'll also talk about the frame rate a little bit more too, because that can be a problem. But before we do that, Chris, what's your highlight?
So yeah, I've been playing this week Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, which is sort of a little, I don't know how to describe it. You basically set up little armies of units to fight against each other, and there's like Stone Age units with guys with clubs and shields, and then there's sort of medieval guys with swords, and there's weird things like guys who throw potions, and witch doctors with weird magic spells, and Zeus is in there, and there's woolly mammoths. It's basically a ridiculous kind of physics-based battle game with a bit of strategy in there too. The campaign is basically comprised of different levels. Each unit that you use has a sort of a cost. So you have a budget, and then you kind of have to beat the opposing army only by staying within your budget. It's very fun and silly, and it's really fun to watch. And you can put it in slow motion or super slow motion, so you can really see these weird little physics things bashing each other, and they make funny noises, and when they get hit, their little eyes kind of squint in pain. It's just super cute. And the thing I enjoy the most is there's this king unit. He's like King Arthur basically, and he's very tall. He's got this giant ass sword, and my favorite thing to do is go into sandbox mode and just make a single king fight everything else. So I'll kind of line them up with like a bunch of other enemy units. Maybe it's like one from each era, or maybe it's like 20 hobbits, or 15 potion throwers, or one mammoth, or a couple catapults. And he's super durable. He's very slow, but he eventually kind of makes his way to the enemy and just starts hacking at him with his giant sword. I don't know why it amuses me so much, but that's like all I've been doing is like I want to make the king fight everyone and see who he can beat and who he can't beat.
He sounds like one of the Teutonic Knights from Age of Empires, just like my favorite unit. They were just these like they were basically like the Terminator. Like they walked really slow, but as soon as they got up to something, they just like punch it and it would die.
Yeah, he's like very, they don't really talk. They kind of make noises, kind of like the Sims. But he's still got this very kind of noble, kind of aloof noise he makes. And I don't know, he seems very proper, even though he's talking gibberish. And I love just making him kill a bunch of things. He just amuses me so greatly. And that's pretty much what I've been doing for like the last couple of days. When I get, half hour at a time, I'll just see like, hey, can he beat 10 guys with spears, or can he beat 20 guys with boulders, or can he beat 50 hobbits at once? So it's a lot of fun to mess around in. The campaign is fun too. It's an early access, so there's still going to be things added to it. It looks like they have, I want to say maybe a ninja unit at some point, because there's a little throwing star icon on a menu, and there's also, I think there will be pistols and more swords and things like that. There's catapults and all sorts of. There's Viking stuff, like there's Viking longboats, but there's no water really on these maps, so they just kind of walk out and throw the boat with its passengers at the enemy. So it's very silly. It's fun. It's a fun sandbox to kind of mess around.
Yeah, I'm watching the video right now, and I'm trying really hard not to just laugh over everything you're saying. That said,
do you have to unlock the units, or are they all open by default?
If you go into sandbox, they're all open. If you're in the campaign, you kind of work your way through them. You usually have fewer options than your enemies, so you kind of have to be creative. And there is some strategy there. Like the hobbits seem pretty useless. Like they don't have weapons, but they will leap and kind of latch onto someone. So if you're having a problem with like getting completely rushed by certain things, someone's having a little wall of hobbits to slow people down, isn't a bad idea. And there's ice archers. They shoot like arrows that are made of ice, so they can kind of freeze your enemies down to slow them down. There's a bit of strategy. Some of the levels are actually kind of tricky to beat. But
I really need you to devise like the 5 best / weirdest strategies that work in this game and run them by like a historical warfare tactician. Like, what do you think about my Hobbit shield approach here?
Yeah, is it tactical? Does it make tactical sense to put a bunch of 3-foot people in front of your regular army and hope they get stuck in the wheels of the catapult that's rolling their way? Yeah, so that's fun. It's my new hobby is just making the king kill as many things as possible.
Beautiful. And that's a totally accurate battle simulator. Is it out, or is it just early access?
It's in early access. It's from Landfall. They did Cluster Truck.
Right. So that they're like, I don't know, probably like they are the aficionados of Ragdoll and goofy physics games for sure. So
yeah, very good Ragdoll stuff on this.
I'll just run through my highlight very quickly. I've been playing Sekiro, whatever you want to call it, almost nonstop since it came out. In every spare hour I have, lunch hour, yada yada. And I'm on the last boss, and I don't know if I want to call this a highlight, but because the whole of the game has been a highlight for me, really sort of coming to understand. And we talked about this last week, the battle system and how From does its design ping pong with you. Like as soon as you understand how, what are they called, Makiri counters work, and how certain dodges or boss parry patterns, they'll subvert that in clever ways. And I feel like I've become so familiar with this combat system and the ins and outs of how they've designed unique experiences around it, that I'm feeling very sad that it is going to be behind me soon, and that that new game feeling when you really get a game every 5 years that sticks with you. I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of sad. I don't want to finish the last boss, even though it's very cool and grandiose, and I'm just feeling kind of sad, feeling good sad, that bittersweet feeling that, you know, something good has come to pass, and I need to grow and move on.
Unfortunately, it's also one of those games where if you just save the ending and you're like, oh, I'll wait a while and play it later, like you will come back and just get fucking wrecked.
Yep, because
hours.
The last boss is a last boss. It is no fucking joke. It is the test of like all your skills you've accumulated so far, and it's not even the toughest boss. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is in perfect From fashion, there is an optional boss I sort of stumbled into, and I know I will never beat. It's just like there's one fuck you boss in at least every game that's hidden off the side. I know in the DLC for the Ring City there was like a dragon, a big purple dragon you could fight if you wanted, and I just saw it once and was like, I'm good. I don't need that. I don't need to prove myself there. And there's definitely that in this. There's so many like endings in this game. I'm kind of surprised. From really leaned into or did a lot with their sort of adventure gamey mechanics, and there's a lot of optional interactions and side quests that they don't ultimately like give you too much, but they just let you sort of see small character stories through, or let you interact with. I can't get too specific without spoiling. We'll have maybe a spoiler cast in like a week or 2 or 3 or 4 from now. But it's really clever, some of the stuff they do. Anyway, Sekiro is going to be in my rear view soon, and then God, I don't know when I'm going to play. I'm thinking about Vampire the Masquerade. I've got the
original or the
original or Bloodlines, excuse me. Because I really want to get that under my belt before Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Is it Masquerade 2 Bloodlines or Masquerade Bloodlines 2?
Bloodlines 2.
Bloodlines 2. Because that sounds fascinating, and I don't know. I need like, sorry, I'm just ranting now, but in this like games as a service world, I'm just like embracing these single player games that have an end. It feels like so refreshing. Like after like entering this fever dream that's been Fortnite and Apex Legends and Division 2 and Destiny and Monster Hunter, all fun, you know, in their own way, but it has really underlined what I really like about games, returning to stuff like Sekiro and seeing these like really bespoke, crafted, once and done experiences. Anyway,
and end credits. You just love end credits.
I love credits, baby. Well,
yeah, I think there's something kind of maybe nice about like deciding, I don't know, like when you finish a game as opposed to you stop because you're just kind of, you don't want any more of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Division 2, I played a good amount of, but then I was like, yeah, I get it. I think I'll just stop now, even though I'm sort of in the middle, as opposed to a game where it's like I reach the end and that's my stopping point because it's over. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is kind of a, I don't know, I find those games as a service where they just are kind of open-ended and go on and on can be kind of tiring.
Yeah, it's got me concerned about Borderlands 3, which we'll talk about, like kind of what shape we hope it takes in the long term. But we'll get there. Let's return to Risk of Rain 2 for the time being. And Wes, why don't you like, for people who don't know what this game is, the series is, let us know. Give us the background.
Yeah, so the first Risk of Rain, I didn't brush up on all the details of it. It came out 5-6 years ago, something like that. Yeah. It was a college project from this really small dev team. I think maybe originally just 2 devs, might have been a little bit larger group than that, but it's only a couple of them, really, only a few of them. You see, 2013, and they made it in Game Maker, and it was, I would describe it as one of those games that just ended up being way better and more fun than it kind of had any right to be. Like, yeah. You know, this was like a student project essentially, and they just fell into this really, or I don't want to discredit their work. Like clearly they designed a good game, but yes, they managed to make a pretty simple game in structure. It's a roguelike where you pick a character and then you just work your way through these stages. There's not really any interaction with the environment other than finding items. There are a few like totems that can give you a chance at an item. So there's kind of a risk reward. Like, do I want to blow my money on this and hope to get something good? There's a thing that will like take your HP away, but give you money that you can use to buy items. Pretty much the only other interaction with the levels is you find a teleporter and then you leave the stage. So it's very simple structurally, and you just go through these stages. It keeps getting harder and harder, more and more enemies until you eventually die. And that was the whole game.
Yeah.
But they managed to just take that kind of classic roguelike thing of let's put a shitload of different types of items in this game. And then they really blew that out by going, well, these can all just stack like infinite times, so that the thing that makes you shoot 10% faster, what if you had 12 of those? And what if you had another thing that made enemies light on fire when you shot them, and then you're playing a character who can shoot 10 times a second, and like just all this stuff just snowballs into kind of mayhem. The first game was a 2D pixel art kind of thing, and the new one, they've spent the past, I guess, like probably 3 years or so figuring out how to translate that game into 3D and make it fun. And they had to learn how to make a 3D game, which, you know, is its own challenge. And I think they've done a really good job at that so far. Like it's in early access. It certainly has some rough edges, but just like it feels like Risk of Rain, even though it's a totally different perspective and the worlds are way, way bigger because of their 3D spaces, obviously, but it still feels like you're playing that 2D game. Like the kind of pace of it, the number of enemies, the way the characters handle in a lot of ways feels very similar. So I think it's like they did a remarkably good job of adapting it between 2D and 3D. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, no, I largely agree. It was weird playing from an entirely new perspective and feeling immediately comfortable and familiar with almost everything that I saw and did. And that might be to its discredit as well, that like, oh, it's maybe too familiar at the get-go and like it's just emulating the same feeling, but you shoot now. But I don't know, it occupies a space like next to Serious Sam, or just these, I don't want to say brain dead shooters, but just like fun, because it's a 4-player co-op game, fun hangout zone where that does a couple things extremely well. You can still stack those all those abilities and gadgets, and seeing that expressed in 3D is so much more chaotic and wild this time around. You know, you have the added expression of whipping around the camera because it's a third-person shooter, so it feels more hectic and involved without really compromising sort of like the knowledge you maybe acquired the first time around. It just like is almost like a flawless adaptation, and you know, I would expect so coming from the same developers, but it's just surprising how much remains intact and how natural it feels, and how it's like a fun shooter. It's like a very fun. It's fun to point and click on things, especially when there's a lot of things coming your way, and the varying abilities. At least like I haven't really unlocked too many characters. I think two that you get. And the means that like help you navigate those hordes of enemies in a 3D space now are pretty fun.
Yeah, all the different characters play really differently. At least the ones I've played so far, I've unlocked. I think I have 3 of the characters, and right now I think the game has 6.
Yeah.
And then the more to come in the future. It seems like they're probably bringing over all the characters from the original game, or at least most of them. I don't know if they're going to have new characters that weren't in that game, but it just launched in early access, so I think it probably has something like a year, you know, of development time to add those other characters in, and the other features it's missing. You know, it's like there's some stuff that's not in there now that I want to see. So in the original game, you would kind of go through this short campaign that kind of culminated in a final boss and like big final level that was kind of fun and dramatic. And this, so far the sequel does not have that. It feels like it's kind of missing like the last episode and the penultimate episode, and just has you going through a few levels and then you loop back around to the beginning, which the original game would also do. You would just keep playing and playing and playing until it got overwhelming. But it's currently missing that big finale feeling, and I think that's just something that will come in early access over time. Similar to like Slay the Spire didn't have its final boss and stuff until it launched out of early access. So there's stuff to wait for, but yeah, I was really surprised that just jumping in immediately, it's like, oh no, they have nailed the core loop of that game and it feels really good. And it has just exploded in popularity on Steam since it launched last Thursday.
Yeah.
It's been 6 days and it has, like, I think I wrote it down, 7,000 something reviews on
7,818 reviews. And that's like a lot.
Yeah, as
like,
of this morning.
That
that's
ratio, like people reviewed it
6 days
to people who own it. And 86% are positive from what I'm reading here.
Yeah. Real positive.
Yeah, that's extremely surprising. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I just
Sorry, I typoed that. 96%.
96. Holy shit. Okay, even better. That's really promising. And it's surprising to me because like I don't know. It's just been a while since the original Risk of Rain. I just hadn't internalized maybe how many people had played it or what would sort of lead. Maybe it's just the timing of it and the announcement at the Gearbox panel helped it as well. Also, I think when you buy it, you get, I don't know if this is a promotion that's still active or not, you get a copy to give away. It's like a buy one, get two. As far as
I think that was only for like the first 2 days.
Okay, maybe
so
not anymore then.
I think it's gone now, but I'm sure that helped get a lot of people on board with it for sure. Yeah. But like, it's one of the most played games on Steam right now. It's in the top 10, I think, on Steam charts. Shit. So yeah, like it is really blown up. And I think like you, I didn't really recognize how big the first game was. I think it did actually sell like 2 or 3 million copies or something. So extremely successful, but just one of those games that people didn't talk about that much, I guess. It was kind of just like that thing that you would just play the way you would just play Dota or Fortnite or something. Like that was just your hangout game with your friends for a long time. Right. And I think right now Risk of Rain 2 is going to be that for me and my friends, because we can just hop in there and just play a run for an hour, and you never know what kind of items you're going to get and how that's going to affect your character build. And you have a guaranteed like easy first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then you're going to end in just the most insane abundance of enemies possible.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple things bothering that aren't like game breaking to me, but so I've been having some performance problems, and I think it might have to do with like high refresh rate monitors or something like that, because it's certainly not. It's not like it's not making your 2080 work overtime necessarily. It's a pretty simple
it's not a super
game.
Graphically not a ton going on graphics wise. Pretty low poly kind of game.
But the frame rate does kind of hitch and tank the more shit appears on screen for me. Again, a couple days in early access, and I really am curious like what they will do that is distinct, and either maybe I just need to go back and replay Risk of Rain and get more familiar with what's there to more aptly compare it to this game. But like, I really hope they do some wild new stuff, some surprising new stuff, and don't just literally translate it into 3D. That's good, and like that I think baseline would be just fine. But I really hope they get to flex a bit more creatively when it comes to some of the later stages in terms of art and enemy design and things like that. But
I think mod support for this game could be incredible. I mean, just the ability for people to make maps and items would do an enormous amount for replayability.
Hell yeah. But it is one of those rare, I don't know, maybe it's not rare anymore, but I tend to not ever want to touch early access games until they've reached a major milestone or something that like says, okay, we are feature complete. Now we're just going to iterate. And this is like, there's still a ton of like gadgets and pickups and characters and such they've yet to add, and stages like you were saying. But it is just bubblegum fun, like chewy, good video game time right now.
Yeah.
I would easily recommend it. Even, what is it, like $20 on Steam?
Yep. $20.
Yeah, it's just good fun, especially just like the online stuff. Functionality works so well in my experience. If you can just quick play and you're in a match like right away with a bunch of other people, and or you can team up with friends pretty easily. It's just a good hangout game at this point.
Yeah, it's really easy to get a match going, which is a huge difference from the first game, which I think had like, I kind of vaguely remember this, but I feel like it had a bunch of like IP. I think you had to type in, like, do manual like IP invites, or like, or it had just like a bunch of conflicts. I remember having trouble just getting friends into a match in that game for like very hard to identify network issues. And this one is just, click them on your Steam's friend list, click invite. Yeah. You can have a whole lobby. I think you can have a lobby with more people in it than you go into matches with, because it's 4 people in a match. But I think you can have like a Monster Hunter style, like big lobby of players.
That suits it. That suits it. Sort of a Trackmania, like Monster Hunter vibe of just kind of like hanging out in a lobby. It's one of those, it's trying to capture the spirit of the lobby, just hanging out and just doing runs, and it's great so far. I will say one more thing. I don't know. People have like told me I'm off base here, but the third-person camera makes it harder to track all of the action on screen. So it's a much better game multiplayer for me so far. Like if you are all about that single-player loop of just you want an idle game to play by yourself, I don't know. It feels a little more difficult to manage on your own. Not impossible by any means, but the first game had that flat 2D perspective. You could really kind of keep track of everything in front of you and behind you. And this definitely feels a bit more geared or designed for multiplayer. I don't know, but still.
I agree for sure.
Yeah. Right on. That's Risk of Rain 2. You probably already know about it. You're probably going to be playing it. I'm really looking forward to. This feels like the kind of game they could just bolt new shit onto forever, and add to that progression and the gear pool, and we'll never stop playing it or hearing about it. It's going to be great.
We'll be sick of it.
Absolutely tired of it. But let's move on to our next subject. Borderlands, I guess. Should we talk about that? Should we talk about Borderlands? Does anyone
Borderlands.
Care? Does anyone give a shit?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. Let me get this little arrow nub in the right spot. Boop, 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 boop.
What do you think about that cover art? The guy's not blowing his brains out anymore. He's found God.
He's ascended.
He's found
cute.
The gun god.
It's cute. It's fun, I guess. Yeah, I like the vibe. It definitely feels self-aware compared to the last two. A little bit more self-aware. It's like, yeah, we know we're this big hokey ass game, and it's all about these stupid guns and our attitude. It's less like the Suicide guys on the first two covers were very edgy, and this doesn't feel edgy. It just feels full on silly.
And I think it ties into the game, because if you watch the trailers, it seems like the bad guys in this new game, the Calypso twins, definitely seem to be running some kind of like crazy gun cult thing. Like everything says, like join the. I forget what the signs say. There's lots of like signage in the trailers that say like join the Calypso cult or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't say cult, but they're clearly. They have clearly gotten the citizens of Pandora under their thumb to worship them, and this is the result. This guy's got a priest robe on and a scepter that's made of some kind of saw blade thing.
Hell yeah! It looks pretty cool. I don't know. Let's start from the top down here, I guess, and ask. Let's open up with the most important question first of all, and this is something we addressed on our website. I'll link to our article, but I gotta know, guy. Is Claptrap good?
I'm gonna say no to that. I don't care for the Claptrap in general.
The little robot who talks?
The Claptrap.
He doesn't talk, he yells. Which is mainly my problem with him, is just a volume thing. He's just so very, very loud. And I don't know. I find him extremely irritating.
You don't like listening to dialogue in games, period, especially even when they're not yelling.
Yeah, like I would, if someone's rattling on and on, I tend to check out. But especially if they're screaming at the top of their lungs, everything, it's just not my jam.
Your cup of tea. I respect that. I've kind of like forgotten what Claptrap is. I feel like my opinion of Claptrap depends on, well, who I am at that time. And when did Borderlands 2 come out? 2010, 2009, something like that.
A little later.
A little later. I was a young idiot. I'm like less of a young idiot now, but and I probably thought all the memes and all that stuff and all the jokes and the dancing and the hooting and hollering were pretty cool and appealed to me as a young online boy. But nowadays, I can't listen to that little bugger say anything.
So we have an article on the site that ran today, Claptrap, good or the worst, ?
Yeah.
With opinions from many members of the PC Gamer team. And James very helpfully said, Claptrap would be better if you gave him human hands and a mouth. And he demonstrated this with an image. So if you want to see what Claptrap looks like with human hands and a mouth, go to pcgamer.com and read that article. I think it's an improvement.
You think so? Yeah. I'll give a little taste on our feed here. Just a real quick transition there. Yeah, I'm kind of into it. I don't know. No one at Gearbox is returning my emails, so.
Are you trying to get that in the game?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's not too late. It's not out till September. Like, I'm sure they could slap a mouth on him if they really
I was just surprised that he had more than two hands.
He's a robot, Isn't that sort of the point of making robots? Is they can.
I guess
give
it was just
as many hands as you want, right?
Yeah.
When you think of like, let's give the robot human hands, you would, I guess, just
Two.
I would naturally picture two. I guess that's why you're on a different level than me, because he has more than two.
Yeah, I just think you just got to think outside the box a little more.
But I think when you look at Claptrap with a human mouth, you kind of just understand why he's always screaming. Like it just makes more sense coming out of that face.
Yeah, expect it. Like when he's talking, you expect to get like a little saliva like flex coming in your direction, but it doesn't really happen in the game, and I think that's a character feature that's missing. But let's move on.
Probably why he's just not a relatable being
until you have bad breath in your mouth and literal moisture on your ear and or lips. Then it's just not going to work. Let's talk about the fucking game. Let's talk about Borderlands 3. Sorry for that diversion. Borderlands 3. So this morning, some important details were announced. Let's run through those. A release date this year, surprising, September 13th, 2019. The grind continues.
Guess what day of the week September 13th is?
Is it a Friday?
It's a Friday.
Oh.
Ooh.
It's gonna be bad. There's gonna be bad things happening to the game.
Borderlands 3 is gonna come out and murder someone.
Yep. Randy Pitchford just won't be able to find it. He left it in the car and he can't launch it. But yeah, that's coming up. That's pretty surprising. I'm happy to know that it's not going to be this year-long, a year of marketing and previews and yada yada, and we're going to be able to just have it this fall. It's pretty exciting, and it's early fall.
Just play it.
Yes, thank God. There's a little asterisk on that release date for some of you that might be a problem, and that it's going to be an Epic Store exclusive on PC for 6 months. So it's not one of those year-long deals. They cut it down to half a year. So you won't be able to find it anywhere else on a computer except the Epic Store until April 2020. Let's just get a quick take from you two. How do you feel about this Epic exclusivity deal with Borderlands? Is it going to change whether you play it or not? Is it going to matter?
Not to me. Not whether I would play it or not. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't. I go to where the games are, and it kind of doesn't. I remember when like Uplay first came out, and it was terrible, and sometimes you just had to buy a game there, and it was like, yeah, this sucks, and I don't want to use it, and I never remembers my password, and it's got problems. But ultimately, I guess you could just not buy it. But for me, it's like, well, why why not just go ahead and do it? I don't know.
I'm actually quite looking forward to Borderlands 3. It's funny, I wasn't until last week. I was kind of just like, oh, I played that, I played a lot of Borderlands 1, I played even more Borderlands 2. I'm good. And then I was like writing a trailer like breakdown of all the stuff in the Borderlands 3 like teaser trailer they did, which was the really cool like gun sculpture, all kind of white ivory. And I was just like writing about all the characters that were hidden in there and stuff. And I was like, actually, no, hell yeah, I'm ready for another one of these games. Like that was a good time. It was really fun co-op, and I'm ready for them to have another one that's kind of the same thing, but just plays a little better and has new shit in it.
Yeah, I'm especially excited. Well, I am hopeful, at least, for a new tone for the series. That a new tone sort of started taking shape at the end of the Borderlands 2 DLC cycle. I'm forgetting the name of it, but there was like a D&D campaign, like
Tiny Tina's assault on something.
Yeah, and that really like it was a cool way to tell a story that was well written, and it had a lot of the irreverent humor and like a lot of the screeching characters, but it did good stuff with them. It wasn't just like, hey, remember this thing from online and the internet? It was like, we're gonna a lot of original jokes, some of that, and an arc that like exposed a bit more of a pathos, and that was especially well done in Tales from the Borderlands. And we're going to see some characters from Tales from the Borderlands, the Telltale spin-off game, in Borderlands 3. So hopefully like they've embraced the sort of like the good parts and found a new balance when it comes to how they make jokes and how they tell stories and like what kind of characters they choose to introduce this time around. Not that like that didn't like break Borderlands 2 for me by any means. It was still a very good like young adult like shoot chat room, much in the spirit of Risk of Rain 2, strangely. But yeah, I like US. I'm feeling invigorated. I sort of forgot about this series, and it maybe took a back seat in my mind for so long, and I sort of like only remembered the discourse over the last 10 years or whatever has been just Claptrap and the bad memes and maybe the dumb shit Randy Pitchford does. But really, it's like Borderlands 2 is a great looter shooter. It's just a cool campaign.
Real fun game, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, the one thing that like I totally get why some people are annoyed at having to install the Epic launcher. Like it's just another thing to run on your computer. I would as soon not do it, but it doesn't. That aspect of it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
What I'm hopeful for in the next few months is that not that they get feature parity with Steam, because obviously Steam has many years of features that they've built up. But I just hope they get at least like cloud saves in there. Like that is probably the one feature I care about more than anything, for the peace of mind of the saves being backed up, as well as sometimes I'm playing stuff on different computers, and being able to just download your save file from the cloud is now something I expect to be able to do, and am very annoyed when that option is not there. So I hope that the Epic launcher gets that in the not too distant future, and as long as like the multiplayer net code and stuff is solid, then it's fine. I don't need it to be on Steam. I just as soon play it wherever I can get it.
I'm with you. There's like weirdly, as much as we've been inundated with like Borderlands 3 news and imagery, we don't really know the greater shape of the game. I think a lot of speculation is still, or a lot of us are still speculating about like what it will be. Is it going to be a like much like Borderlands 2, just a campaign you can play with people repeatedly, or is it going to be sort of a living shooter in the vein of Destiny or The Division 2? We still don't really know, do we? Is there any indication?
Not really. I have a strong feeling that it's going to be a lot like Borderlands 2 structurally, but maybe the way they handle DLC and like updating it will feel more like a modern living game, rather than these kind of like $10-15 chunk add-ons every 3 months or
like
whatever.
Yeah.
I think they might do some more modern looter shooter type stuff with it, but just the way they've been showing off all the different characters, the returning characters, new characters, showing like adventure to different world and stuff, like it really feels to me like clips taken from a 30-hour campaign in the traditional Borderlands style.
And multiple planets to do it on this time, which is thank God. Like I don't really need a big seamless open world or anything like that, but just some visual variety, which Borderlands 2 got sort of near the back half of the campaign and with some of the DLC. It got kind of boring looking at that drab Pandora's drab dirt surface, and the repeated sort of like scientific outposts and so on. But I think the look is really, really nice in Borderlands 3. I will say we got a quick look at...
Chris, cool it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Shit, I thought I was muted. Sorry.
It's all good. The work never stops. The work never stops. Sounds like a good keyboard anyway. We got a brief look at the new Vault Hunters.
It's a Corsair.
Ooh. Chris, real PC gamer confirmed.
There's not much else to say other than like we're looking forward to it, but we did get a quick glance at the 4 new Vault Hunters announced so far. I know Borderlands 2 got more in DLC, and same with the pre-sequel. But
wait, did it really?
Yeah. I'm forgetting who they were. But fuck. There was like a barbarian. You basically have to play a bandit with like a saw blade. I didn't
totally
really
miss that.
think around with that too much, but the new Vault Hunters came out in the new trailer today. Mose, and it looks like Mose is like this. She's a chain gun wielding soldier type who can sort of summon a mech for maybe their ultimate. Sounds cool. There's Flak, and Flak, yes, the A in Flak is spelled with a 4. Flak is a robot, and it looks like you'll be able to some kind of like pet system, like a skag, which is pretty cool to me. I love like companion character archetypes like that, especially like World of Warcraft or any MMO. Amara is a magic type, seems to be like the siren of some kind with these ghostly arms that appear out of her back or around her back. And then there's Zane, who I know almost nothing about other than he has a mustache and a little armed drone thing that probably...
I think he fits into the like assassin archetype, if I remember right.
Probably a lot of like status effects and stealthy abilities. That's pretty cool. So we got a nice spread. Looks like a nice spread. I like the look of them. The baddies look nefarious and hip.
They look like edgelords. Let's not show.
Yeah.
They have studded collars and spikes everywhere, mascara. I mean, they are full on 80s evil.
I dig it. I dig the vibe overall that we're getting from Borderlands 3, and I'm super curious to see what we learn about it over the next, gosh, how many months away is September? We're in April, 5 months ish, something like that. Gosh, that's soon. But Borderlands 3, closing thoughts. How many thoughts do we have?
Closing thoughts. You got 5 months to play Borderlands 1 and 2.
There you go. Oh yeah, those new remastered updates came out, and I think they're free on PC. So if you want better textures,
I think they're out as of today.
Yeah. I don't think I would ever want to play that first game again. But if you have enough nostalgia for the series, that's a pretty cool bonus. They have a map on screen now. Thank God.
Yeah, they added a few little kind of nice quality of life changes from Borderlands 2 into the first game, ported them back into the first game. So if you want to relive those games, that's a really good way to do it. And if you already own them, then you get the new stuff for free.
Heck yeah.
Do you feel like the cell shading and the art style, like kind of give it a timeless kind of feel, like it'll never really look bad, but at the same time, when you see the new game, you're like, this looks exactly like it looked
years
ago, and maybe it's like, I don't know, when some new game comes out years and years later as a sequel, you kind of want to be blown away by like, whoa, new visuals and stuff. But I was kind of like, yeah, it just kind of looks the same. Not necessarily a bad thing, but not
when you
like
when you put like the two side by side, you can really clearly see like, oh, there's a lot more detail in the textures, and oh, it's got, the lighting is like drastically better and different than it used to be. But that's not really the first impression. The first impression when there's such a heavy style at play is totally like, yeah, that's basically what the last game looked like, right? This is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. I guess it kind of works both in kind of both directions. Is like a good thing and maybe not a great thing.
And I think, sorry, go on.
I would say that looking at the third one, it didn't feel, in the trailer, it wasn't like, whoa, they have really leveled up. It's like, it looks to my memory the same as Borderlands 2 did. And once you get in there, we'll be able to see all the little nice touches they've added and stuff. But you're totally right that it does not feel like a generational leap.
I think that's sort of an important piece of Borderlands' success overall is like, gosh, I remember when I was a high school teacher, a lot of my students were in love with Borderlands 2. None of them, a lot of them played it on PC, and they just had shitty laptops. And it was a low spec game for the time, like relatively low spec. And I think that cell shaded look is sort of part of the reason. I can't. I'm not an engineer. I can't tell you why, but I know it ran well on low spec machines. And Borderlands 3, if it can do the same thing, then that'll be great for everyone. I think, like, gosh, I was looking at my friends list on Steam, or excuse me, like in the store page on Steam, and Borderlands 2 might be one of the most popular games among all my friends. There's like something like 41 of my friends own it. I don't even know I didn't know I had 41 friends on Steam, to be frank. So it's everyone can play it, and hopefully that carries over.
I want to be Flack. That's my main
who we got dibs on? Damn it! I like the Skag Pet guy. Let's see. I'll be Mose.
Oh, we just can't play together. That's okay, James.
I want to play with you, Mose. Oh man, let's move on to our final topic before diving into questions. Let's move outward from Borderlands.
Ooh.
And inward to outward. I don't know.
To the outer lands.
Let's move to the outer land. Yeah. Outward. Someone explain this game to me, because I've heard survival game, I've heard RPG, and I still don't quite know what it is. Here's
all you need to know about Outward, James.
Okay.
You're a worthless piece of shit, and nobody cares about you.
So it's a life sim.
It's a life sim.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sounds good.
No, let Chris actually explain it.
It's an RPG, a fantasy RPG, but a lot of the kind of, I don't know, typical fantasy or even just video game stuff isn't there. Like, you can't fast travel. If you want to get somewhere, you have to run there, and if you want to get back, you have to run back. There's you open a map, you don't see your position on it. The map itself is very bare except for, a few major locations. If you find a cave, which there are lots and lots of caves and dungeons and things, like, it doesn't appear on your map. You can put a little icon on it, but it's not going to it's not, you're going to have this big map full of all these locations. There's no XP. You never level up. That's not how you progress. You can increase your things like your health and your stamina, but these are skills that you need to learn or purchase from a trainer or receive as a reward for helping someone. But you're level 1 and you're just a dude in this world. You're not going to become like this level 50 grand wizard thing. And there's no you don't die when you lose a fight, or if you're injured or whatever. You don't die. You lose consciousness. You wake up somewhere else on the map.
Like randomly, or at specific.
It's there are there's a number of death scenarios. You might, if you die from finding bandits, a lot of times you'll be dragged back to their bandit fort and have to escape.
Oh my God.
I did that in co-op. There are nice scenarios. Sometimes someone will find you and like bring you back to a city, and you'll wake up inside the city walls. There's some mysterious benefactor sometimes who will heal you, and you'll wake up in good shape. A lot of times you'll wake up in horrible shape with very little health, very little stamina, and negative effects like confusion and pain that will really slow down your progress. And there's not a traditional save game thing. The game is saving your game for you as you play. So if you lose a
Risky.
fight, you don't just go, well, I'm going to reload a save. You wake up and you decide, am I ready to go back to that spot and fight that thing again, or do I need to rest? Do I need to recoup my stamina, my health? Do I need to, use alchemy to make some potions or regain my mana? Do I need better equipment before I tackle this fight again?
You kind of also have to get over that RPG mentality of like, oh, well, I should go back and fight that thing because it's worth XP or whatever. Like, there's a lot of times there's no reason to actually fight stuff except to get the resources that they drop, which are valuable. But a couple of times I was like, we saw something and we're just like, no, just let's run the fuck away. Like, why would we fight this thing? It's just going to either kill us or it's going to hurt us some. And then we're going to have to heal, like sleep to heal or use some precious bandages or, resources. So let's just avoid this fight entirely.
Yeah, basically every encounter is kind of like a little decision. Like, is this worth it to me? Can I win? Even if I win, is it going to, I'm on my way somewhere. I've got the stuff I need for it. Do I want to expend those resources for this particular fight? A lot of them are like, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know how strong it is. I don't know what its abilities are. So, at other times you like over prepare. You'll see some monster. You'll be like, okay, I'm going to drink 3 potions. I'm going to cast these 3 spells so I can cast this 4th spell. I'm going to use these traps. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then you wind up winning instantly. And it's like, shit, I just used like so much stuff for no reason. So it's like a lot of little decisions pretty much from start to finish. So
it seems to be this like blank, well, not a blank slate, but like what part of the appeal seems to me is just learning the rules of the world and sort of like building your intuition up. And so when you do see the wolf, you sort of know, I can drop X spell on him and be fine versus like use everything in my inventory. Does that seem to be like a huge part of the appeal for you, is sort of just like unfurling this world and learning how it works? Or is there actually like a campaign pulling you through it and other rewards pulling you through?
Yeah, I mean, the campaign, there's basically 3 branches to it. One of the first things you need to kind of decide is like which faction you're going to join of these 3, which can take, it can take hours to even get to that point because they're all in a different city than you start in, and just getting to these kind of far-flung places can take a lot of work, and there's a lot of distractions and a lot of setbacks along the way. But eventually you'll pick one that you want to join, and that can that'll lead you kind of through the world for the most part, with a lot of kind of side quests and exploration. And sometimes you'll complete a quest and they'll be like, okay, come back and talk to me in like 5 days.
Okay.
So it's not like you just immediately step onto the next stage of the quest. It's like, hey,
Right.
good job. We'll talk in a week and see if anything's going on. So there's time to kind of do stuff for yourself apart from the main quest. And the main quest isn't something you're probably just going to string your way through like step by step, because there are these kind of down times where they're like, we don't have anything for you to do. Go away. We'll talk later. And there are like side quests and things like that too.
Right.
I think the main thing is this kind of measured pace that I kind of felt myself taking on it, that I find very appealing. Okay. I love the idea of going, okay, I'm going to play for 3 hours and maybe I'll get one thing done. Maybe I'll do one. The result will be I do one quest. Like, I kind of enjoy that. And I think it might be a problem for people who want to sit down in 3 hours and do like 10 quests. And I totally get that.
It manages to do a thing that I think not many games do, just in feel and structure of making really minor accomplishments feel monumental, and it does that without like tons of complexity or like obfuscation. You know, like I think Dwarf Fortress can give you like a similar feeling of like, holy shit, I set up a carpenter workshop and had a guy make some beds. Like that's not something that actually comes super easily. Like that takes some learning and like figuring out how to get through this really like kind of confusing set of menus and keyboard commands and stuff to get that to work right. And that's one sort of satisfaction from this small thing. But Outward is kind of different. Like the inputs for playing the game are quite simple. The actions you're taking are not especially complicated. Like it has a crafting system, but you basically like put a couple items together and click a button and you've crafted something. Like it's not very complex. But because everything is dialed back so far from the power fantasy, just the fact that like, wow, we like said, all right, we're going to try to get from one side of the map to the other side and, you know, go to this other area. And we fought off like 3 hyenas on the way. And then we got kidnapped by some bandits, but we escaped. And then we made it out of the map and we had the like food items that we needed to make it. And we didn't die on the way there, or we didn't starve to death or whatever. Like, hell yeah, that was fun. Like this was a significant accomplishment in the scope of this game, even though in Skyrim that would literally be opening the map and clicking fast travel to a place and you're there, right? Like it would be so easy. In this game, it's not exactly difficult. It's just kind of, that is the game. Like the simple actions you have to do to get someplace and how fragile you are while you're trying to do that.
It's kind of recalibrate your expectations for what you're hoping to accomplish in this fantasy world. It's not
absolutely
like you're not going to be mowing dragons out of the sky. You're going to be running away from them and it's trying to get some food in your belly from the sound of it.
Yeah, so I think that just general feeling, at least to me, I haven't played nearly as much as Chris had, makes up for a lot of the like, this game could have like a great story and great writing and stuff, and I feel like it doesn't. Like I haven't given a shit about what any characters had to say in it, so it's never going to be among my like, oh, this RPG made such an impression on me and I love the world and stuff. It's kind of just more like being in this place where you're a nobody. I feel like is an idea that a lot of people think would be a really awesome game. Like, oh, I just want to be like a soldier on the ground and not important. But I think most of the time when games attempt that, it's not actually fun. But this one I think manages to actually pull that off pretty decently.
Right on. And you guys have been playing together, is that right? So it's 2-player co-op?
Yeah, we played some co-op. There's a bit of a drawback to that in that like I couldn't join Wes's game for whatever reason, so he joined mine, and whoever is hosting, in this case me, they're the only ones who can get quest progress saved with their character. Like, we went to do a quest for this woman to get this item from a cave and bring it back and sell it, and like I went with Wes, and he picked up the item and he brought it all the way back and he sold it to her, and I was not even standing near him, but the money went into my pocket. It was just... So all quest progress seems to go toward the person who is hosting.
I wonder if that's a bug that they're going to fix, because
I don't know.
It seems bad.
It does seem bad and strange for that to work, especially like the other quest, which I think we did to join one of the factions.
Yeah, we joined a religion.
Like the money wasn't a big deal. I can just drop the money for Wes and he could pick it up. Yeah. But he kind of got locked out of that other quest we did.
Yeah, we joined a thing that was supposed to give us a skill or something, and then you got it, but I
got the skill and you didn't. Yeah. So it would be like that would be kind of a big deal, I think, if you were hoping to like jointly really progress through a story together. If it's like, it wouldn't have been a problem for me if I'd been in Wes's game and he'd been progressing. Like that would have been fine. I was just kind of there to help out, and I'd already progressed with my other character where I wanted to. But it does seem like a kind of a huge drawback for two people who really want to co-op the whole thing together and progress. You can still save all the stuff you get, but you're not going to make it through the quest, which kind of sucks.
That's kind of annoying.
So, but I hope that's something that they that they address in the game. I hope that that's not an
That's just how it
intentional
is.
design. Yeah, I hope that's something they can
Yeah, it'd be
improve.
very strange if it was intentional, I think.
No, I mean it's not in early access. It's out. Am I right? It's out.
It is out, yes.
Okay, but do they have a good I don't know. Does it seem like they're updating it frequently and supporting it well so far?
I think there was an update last week. I'm hoping there will be more. It feels like it's not the only issue we've run into. Like, one of the big drawbacks of a game that doesn't let you reload a save is I got like stuck, like physically stuck in the world. I slid down a side of a hill and got stuck behind a wall in that sort of perpetual sliding falling animation, and I couldn't get out. And like, I can't reload a save. I can't teleport myself. I can't, by fast traveling. And I was just kind of stuck there. I was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, what do you even do in that case? And eventually I had to like manually go into the save files. They are there. It saves, I think, your last 15 auto saves, and had to delete the one where I was stuck, and lost some progress and lost some time. I had run a really long way to get to where I wound up stuck. So that kind of sucked too. So there are some definite drawbacks to kind of doing away with a lot of these video game conventions, I guess.
Right. So impression I'm getting is like ambitious. I mean, like when it's all working, and
I think I really honestly think it's a real gem. I think there's just a lot of really, really rough edges to it.
Gotcha.
And I think, I don't know. It depends. This is a very, I feel it's a pretty ambitious game for a small team. I think there's about 10 of them over at 9 Dots, the developer 9 Dots. It feels very ambitious. I really love the survival stuff. I love the fact that you really need to think about pretty much every encounter you make, every decision you make. There are a lot of issues, though, at the same time. Kind of reset. I kind of had to reset some expectations, I guess I have, and be like, should I be forgiving of this? It's a small team. They're doing a lot of things I love, but there's a lot of problems. It's, it's a tricky one to be like, definitely play this or don't because there's problems. I don't know. I really enjoy it. I think it does a lot of interesting, cool stuff that I really appreciate, that I'm willing to maybe forgive some of the larger issues. Or not forgive, but like not condemn it for having issues. I don't know.
I think that's where a lot of the most interesting games end up. They have like clear lack of polish in some area, or just like bad design somewhere, or low production values or whatever, but there's whatever that certain quality is, that one thing they do well, or that atmosphere they do that nothing else quite matches, that makes them worth playing if you vibe with it.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's been, I don't know, like fairly a buzz for a bit, so hopefully that gives the team the budget and time to iron out some of the problems. Evan in the comments says, you were describing Mountain Blade, and so I think that's probably maybe a good comparison. Is like, Mountain Blade is known to be sort of broken in so many ways, but it is so unique, among other action games and strategy games and RPGs, that it's probably worth checking out to some degree, and especially if Outward, 6 months from now, it doesn't have the perpetual sliding bugs or whatever else, a little more flexibility with the saves or something, then it sounds like one to keep an eye on at least.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Mountain Blade is a really good kind of, not apples to apples comparison, but definitely like one of these kind of janky, low budget games that still does so many just great, different, wonderful things. So
right on.
It's a good shout.
Cool. That's Outward. Look for a review soonish. Did we just lose Chris? There he is. And yeah, let's we're running low on time here, so let's get to some questions from the listeners. Anyone in Twitch chat, if you have a question, just tag PC Gamer, and we'll get to it if we can. But we do prioritize questions from the PC Gamer Club Discord, And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to club.pcgamer.com to find out more. It's just a small subscription service that supports us directly. You get some goodies with it, like digital subscription to our magazine. You get an ad-free experience on the site, invite to the Discord, of course. You get a free game each month. I'm probably missing other things. Oh yeah, you get some high glossy JPEGs of Tub Geralt, among other things. You know, if we get beta keys for a new game or whatever, we'll throw them at club members first if we can. That's club.pcgamer.com. Let's get to that first question. It comes from Marco. Is anyone from PCG going to reach out for the Bannerlord beta access? Who's the most hyped? It's appropriate that Evan just mentioned Bannerlord. I didn't even know beta was coming up, personally. I'm not too familiar with the series. Any of you particularly excited for Bannerlord?
I've played very little Mountain Blade myself.
Oh gosh, that's the wrong.
I've played a ton. I'm definitely excited to see the newest one. Yeah, it's just a great RPG series with so much potential that and plus we've known, it's one of those odd rare games where we've known it's coming for a long time and don't know when. Still don't know when it's really coming. Yeah. We don't even know when the beta's coming out.
It's been like 5 years, right?
Yeah, I mean we've heard about it for a long time and never even got any kind of real window. So I'm definitely ready for the beta, whenever that is.
Hopefully soon, but take your time. Griffiola. I don't know if this is not the right guest panel for this question, but most kills in one round at Apex. I got like 4 once.
I think I got 2.
Right on. Wes,
yeah, probably 3. I haven't played since week 2 of that game being out.
Yeah, like I said, I've been taking a break from these live games, but there was like a string of Apex questions. I think people in our chat are really into this game right now. Nick Manley, who is the best overall Apex player and the real legend on the staff? I mean, for me, it's unquestionably it's gonna be Evan.
Gotta be Evan, I would think.
Bo, though, Bo's put on some good shows. He's done a couple stand-in weeks when we haven't been able to put on a normal show. He's done some Apex and he's done pretty well. Evan in chat says, I think I got 12 in Apex. Shh, is that like bad? I don't know what that is. Is that good? Bad? That sounds good.
That's good.
I think he just doesn't want to shame us.
Okay.
It's basically 4 squads.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine. I'm scared. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm scared to go back. I love Apex. Obviously, I reviewed it and gave it a very, very high score. And I just am scared to go back to it because I know we're at a point where not everyone, but a percentage of the player base is going to just be so much more acclimated to it than me. And I got FPS chops, but I don't have patience. So we'll see. Evan is in chat. Flying Circus Monkey. That's Dog Lobster. Next question. My name's Nobody, and this is an interesting one. Do you think Borderlands 3 is going to have the risk of being overhyped? And I don't know, there's fundamentals to that question that maybe we need to address first. What do we mean when we say hype? It's a common term among the gamers that I think just refers to excitement in response to marketing. So
there you go.
Absolutely, yeah. Every game has the risk of being overhyped in that regard. It's marketing. If it's good marketing, it gets us excited, and that it may not live up to that excitement. Who knows? It's so nebulous.
I think in the specifics, no, because a lot of the games that end up overhyped, people build up expectations of what they're going to be able to do in that game, often because of the marketing, and then them kind of taking that out of control. No Man's Sky is a great example. They expect something wildly different from what that game actually delivers. And unless you get into Borderlands 3 and something really surprising happens, like it does not in fact have 1 billion guns in it, and it only has like 4 guns, and there's no loot anymore, or something, that's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
People know what this game is going to be. So unless something really out of left field happens, assuming people are mostly just excited to play a game that's a lot like Borderlands 2, but with new shit in it, then I think they're going to get that. So maybe they don't end up liking it quite as much as they build up in their mind, but I don't think the expectations are going to be very divergent from the reality of what that game is.
Yeah, Half-Life 3 would have the potential to be overhyped. I'm not sure if Borderlands 3 would.
Oh gosh, don't get me started. Let's not go to Half-Life 3 territory. Do we even care? Can we all agree that we just like don't even give a shit about a Half-Life 3 anymore? It's just I'm numb to it.
If I heard it was coming, I would get excited.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's just
I kind of don't care at this point. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But if it was actually announced, I would probably be stoked.
Same. I would be.
If they announce it, they better say no buggy and no hovercraft, and then I will be willing to get excited.
Man, I like that shit though.
I like the hovercraft. I didn't like the buggy. I really like the hovercraft though.
Man, I hated both of those segments. I didn't hate them. I disliked them. I thought they were not
vehicles, Gabe. Please, more vehicles. Helicopter and a motorcycle. Moving on. A perfectly legitimate doctor, or what's your name this week? A perfectly legitimate doctor. They're always changing their name, and I don't know the reference to this one, so let me know. Maybe it's Apex. Oh, Apex. Okay, that's pretty good. Which story of ignoring the actual stories of a video game is Chris's favorite? And they say the Skyrim guide to following your followers is the best in their opinion. Chris, do you have a favorite that stands out from your long history?
Yeah, that one was fun. That was when I think it was when I had my wife who was following me, my Skyrim wife, and I dismissed her, and they turn around and leave, and I was like, well, let me follow her and see if she actually physically walks home, like if the game actually has her walk all the way back to our house. So I followed her for like 3 days, I think, and she did actually walk all the way back to the house, which I'm always impressed when games don't just like cheat. Like she walked behind a tree and disappeared and then was in the house. She actually did walk all the way back.
Did your real wife know that you spent 3 days following your Skyrim wife home? She know about your Skyrim wife?
Care that anything I do in games for the most part. I don't know what else. What other ones were there?
There's a lot.
I like Joe's GTA role playing. I'm not sure if that counts, but I mean that's ignoring the story and making your own story. Yeah, I think. Well, the Elder Scrolls one, I did like a 10-part diary about completely ignoring Skyrim and hoping it ignored me and tried to avoid adventure, which basically wound up with me walking across the map and getting married and my wife leaving me in the middle of the ceremony, and then I think I got killed on the way back. So I never saw my wife again.
another life sim. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
There's just go to PC. I don't know what our author tags are, but it's like pcgamer.com/author/Chris-Livings. I don't know. Or just Google.
I don't know.
Chris Livingston PC Gamer, and there's just a whole bunch of good shit, treasure trove. Along with again Joe Donnelly. Look up Joe. We miss Joe. He's doing soccer stuff now, but he has he's still giving us some great.
He's still doing side gigs for us and GTA stuff, and it's all really brilliant.
Yeah, that role playing stuff is excellent. He's such an unassuming dude. He's just a nice kind guy. Then he does this really twisted, strange stuff in GTA. Like I just would not expect to see Joe do. That kind of heightens the humor.
He's a dad now, and yet it hasn't toned him down at all.
No,
he's cool. He's still crazy.
A little wild. Next question. I don't know if we can really speak to this too much, but I'll throw it at you guys. But JBJ Blaze asks, after The Walking Dead, the final season finally concluded, what do you guys think of the future of Telltale and similar style games? Well, there's no future for Telltale. They're gone, right? I'm hoping companies like Skybound did pick up these other titles for new seasons like Minecraft Story Mode and Game of Thrones. Do you think there's room for these the mold of adventure game or story driven game Telltale made in the future? Do you think anyone will pick up the mantle and carry it forward?
I mean, Life is Strange is still a thing,
Yeah.
but I haven't heard great reception for the new season, and I feel like there's going to be kind of a dry period for episodic games for a while. I feel like people kind of ran its course, and I think it'll be a few years, and then someone will do a new one in kind of a big way that makes a splash.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
But I don't know about those properties themselves. I think those are probably pretty
I mean,
done.
If anything, I would say keep your eyes peeled on Netflix and streaming services to see maybe the spirit of this stuff live on. I know, I'm paraphrasing and I can't remember the source, but Netflix, after the Black Mirror Choose Your Own Adventure episode, is looking for narrative designers. So expect to see more of their Choose Your Own Adventure style stuff. In what vein exactly? I don't know. But I think that's going to grow over time. I hope so. It was kind of fun. Even no matter what you think of that episode, I think it was a novelty, a cool thing. Next question. That's all of our Discord questions, so we can move to chat. We got 2 more. Perfect timing. What does it say? Fidelities asks, there are clearly benefits to developers and publishers for going exclusive to, say, Epic Games. Are there any benefits to us consumers, though? We, the consumers, because I see none. I'm sorry, I'm not mocking you. I hate that word. Consumers. So what do you guys think? Like, are there any benefits for us to see games on the Epic Store? No.
I mean, nothing immediate. Certainly, nothing direct. If you think a benefit is that you're a developer gets more of can earn more money because they have a better cut over it. Epic, then I guess that's an indirect bonus because they'll do better. But no, I don't think there's any direct benefit. I think, honestly, I think exclusives aren't great for us. I think there'll probably be fewer of them, hopefully. My whole hope was that there would be more competition for Steam, because I think ultimately in the long run, competition is better for consumers. That might not be the case. We're talking about 2 companies with billions of dollars, and if anything's going to get worked out, it's probably going to be in the favor of the billionaires, not the consumers. But I don't know. Yeah, no, there's no benefit to us.
I think there isn't a tangible direct like, oh, I clicked download on this game on the Epic Store and that is better for me and here's why benefit. But I think it's hard to talk about in specifics, but like I have talked to game developers who have talked about the kind of deals Epic is doing, and also new programs like subscription services like the Xbox Game Pass, for example, where the deals involved in these exclusives or these Game Passes like can make the difference can make an indie game especially profitable before it even comes out. Or can make the difference between that game having a very risky chance of making its money back versus a sure chance of it making its money back. Yeah. And so if you kind of take the logic of that out far enough, to some extent, it will make the difference between a developer existing and not existing, between them putting out a game that maybe isn't that great or maybe is really great and just doesn't find an audience and they lose a shitload of money on it and they can't make games anymore. If they are going to put that game on the Epic Store and Epic says, yeah, we'll give you $5 million or we'll give you $1 million for your small game or whatever, and that is enough money for them to, no matter what, make another game, then I would consider that a good thing for me as a person who wants to see video games be successful and indie developers being able to make cool stuff, their passion projects, even if they're not, surefire hits. So I consider that a benefit to buying games that get that exclusivity money.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird because I understand why people are upset about it, and like are wondering why these decisions are. It feels like they're being made without the customer in mind. Um, but I think like we can speculate, but we can't say whether it will be good in the long run or not. I think we're still in that like liminal period where we've got to see all this play out. It's fair to criticize Epic for just like buying up these exclusives, and I agree, Chris. Like, I think their exclusives are bad. Like, they are not. They maybe don't. The end result is like us clicking a different launcher, but how does that play out into the culture of how these businesses operate and compete in a digital space? Like, what is cool and what's not, and what's fair and what's not, and those are dozens of other conversations to have. I think what bothers me most is like people, like, all these things are valid. I think what bothers me most is like people pointing to Epic as like in the hands of Tencent, as if like they are the only Tencent involved, or Tencent is the only has stakes in Epic. And I saw a good tweet by Rami Ismail, a developer at Vlambeer, who kind of went down the list like who Tencent has stakes in, or what companies Tencent has stakes in. I need to lay these out before we move on. This is not an endorsement or not of the Epic Store, by the way. Like, feel free to make your own decisions, but it's good to know all the facts. Tencent owns.
It's ludicrous to think that like the Chinese government is stealing your data.
Yeah.
Because they own a chunk of Epic.
Yeah, Tencent owns or has stakes or partnerships with Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard, Epic Games, Riot Games, Paradox, PUBG, League of Legends, Clash Royale, Discord, Fortnite. Why did they list Fortnite? Those Epic Games. Path of Exile, Rocket League, and many, many more. Including, I want to say, don't they own the Warframe developer? I might be misquoting that, but
Digital Extremes.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Anyway, they Tencent's a big company, and they have investments in a lot of companies and properties that you're familiar with. Epic is not alone here, so I don't know. This is gonna be a complex thing that we see play out over the next couple years for sure, and everyone's right to be hesitant and weary and annoyed by the things that they do lose. Convenient wines from Steam to Epic, but I think we need to like all take a breather and really look at the facts.
And remember that you don't have to buy like a $300 to $500 piece of hardware to play these exclusive games. You just have to download another launcher.
Yeah,
which is slightly annoying, but it's not costing you any money. It's costing you about 5 minutes, and yeah, you're missing some features. We'll see if they actually add those. I will be first to criticize Epic if in 6 months they still have a big hole where they should have cloud saves and the other library management stuff, all that good stuff.
For sure. Fortnite. One more question from the big boss himself, Evan Lottie, Dog Lobster. I feel like he's testing us here. What would you consider the best new idea, whether it's a piece of design, a character, whatever, in PC gaming in the last year? Let that stew for a bit. For me, I can think of like two off the top of my head, and one is definitely more niche, but I think could have an effect on a long-term effect on how action games are made. But I think Sekiro's combat system was so, and you saw it, and Steven wrote a piece on it. Like, you see all over the internet people like having this epiphany regarding how that combat system works, the posture meter, and what that does to how you play. The posture meter really encourages like just wearing down an enemy and getting in their face and paying more attention to like a recontextualization of the stamina system. It forces you to stay constantly engaged rather than to play it safe, even though there are ways to still cheese the system. I've never really felt a combat system that rewarded me for being so brash and reflexive, and conversely like punished me for making mistakes within that. It's unlike any other action game I've ever played, and I think From are really doing like it's easy to look at Sekiro and say, oh, it's Dark Souls, but you play aggressive. But really, I think the wider repercussions of the design in the posture meter is going to play out in not just their game, but I think you might see it radiate in other Souls likes, or kind of the usual imitators, or in other action games for years to come. It is super, super special. You guys have any thoughts?
Evan has written about this on the site, but I think the depth and flexibility of the ping system in Apex Legends is a real step forward for communication in games. And going back to slightly more than a year ago, I still, when I think about it, kind of marvel at the way Into the Breach kind of turned typical strategy game design on its head by making it basically giving you all the information about what's going to happen in a given turn, and you're sort of working backwards from the results to plan the perfect moves for your units, rather than taking action and then seeing how the enemy reacts to that. Like it giving you that information up front is such a different way of just thinking about a strategy game, turning it into a puzzle box that you're taking apart piece by piece until you have kind of fixed the turn, and then starting over from there. I think was just so well done and so clever.
Right on.
Sea of Thieves water.
Yeah.
Just the water in Sea of Thieves. Like I legit don't know how they did so much better than every other instance of water ever, but it's amazing. Every time I jump in, just spend a little time staring at the waves in the oceans. And honestly, the weather, and how the weather affects how the water looks, and how the time of day and the rain and the light, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what they did, what kind of voodoo they did with their water, but they should sell it to every other game because it's so good.
But then it wouldn't be special anymore.
That's true. If Sea of Thieves doesn't work out in the end, they could sell their water. They could make their water an Epic exclusive.
The great video game water shortage. Yeah, excellent water. Excellent water. And speaking of, I'm getting pretty parched because we've been talking for way too long about video games. I need to go play some. That's going to do it for us today on the PC Gamer Show. You can join us every Wednesday, maybe not next week because I'm going to be out, but every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/PCGamer. You can find us after the fact at youtube.com/PCGamer. We'll get the VOD up there. Or you can listen to us on any number of podcast services. Just go to PCGamer.com/tag/podcast. We're on Spotify, Google Play. We're not, well, the iTunes feed is still busted, but you can still add the RSS feed manually to iTunes if you want us there. Trying to get that fixed. Trust me. And Anchor now as well. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen to us, which is good and great. But until next week, not next week again. I'll have to find someone to step in and play some stuff. But until we meet again, don't forget, Wes, to Chris. Don't forget to
Game on.
Thank you.
Oh, was that what it was? Was it Game On?
It's Game On.
We got it. Really?
Game On.
We don't have this down yet? All right. Well,
I thought it was Play something. Play.
The Power of Play?
Power of Play.
I think I left that one by the wayside. The Power.
Oh.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. But
I'm behind the times.
Yeah, behind the times.
Play video games, everybody.
Play video
Play games.
See ya.
Bye.